I'm Suzy Vance, creating from the heart in the Artistry of Living, and today I'm here with Joe Coar.
Good morning.
So, Joe, you work for Tonn and Blank.
I do. Yes, I do.
And what do you do there?
Well, right now I'm a consultant. I started in the year 1967 for Tonn and Blank. This year, at the end of this year, it'll be 58 years. I started as a Carpenter Apprentice and worked my way up from Carpenter Apprentice to like working foreman for the carpenters, and then superintendent, and then went from superintendent into management of operations, and then became vice president of operations. And I held that position up till 2014, and then I retired. And
Yes,
then the very
and
next
then-
and the very next day, I signed a consulting agreement with Tonn and Blank, John Gilmore, our president, and I've been consulting for Tonn and Blank ever since, in a
That's
very, very
amazing.
good way.
So you must like what you do.
I love what I do.
Did you ever imagine you would be doing what you're doing when you were a kid?
Not at all. I tell you, my dad really taught us kids in our family how to have a good work ethic.
Uh-huh.
And he taught us how to have a personality and how to help people that weren't as fortunate.
Uh-huh.
And he actually had me cutting on a table saw when I was 8 years old. Today, that'd be probably some form of child abuse because it was a homemade table saw, by the way.
Oh!
It was a piece of plywood with a motor out and a blade that turned around. So, yeah, so we were encouraged from day one to try to help the misfortunate. So we would go around the neighborhood and cut neighbors' grass that they were elderly and they couldn't do it themselves or things like that. And then when I went through high school, I got out of elementary school and went to high school, and then I studied woodshop for a long time, started out in 7th grade, and I ran into a guy by the name of Newt Muir. Newt Muir was the athletic director and a woodshop teacher in them days. So he kind of seen something in me, I think, and I stayed in his class for like 5 years.
That's great.
So when I graduated from high school, I tried to get a Carpenter Apprenticeship with Tonn and Blank. It was turned down. So, and at the same time, we only had graduated in 65, we only had a few years or a few months before we got sent to select the service agency in Chicago. So I worked various jobs during that time, and then when Uncle Sam called, I went to Chicago. I volunteered for the Marines, and they took a x-ray of my head. I had a head injury when I was about 8 years old. And
Not from the table saw.
No, not table saw. No, it had nothing to do with table saw. So anyway, after that happened, they sent me back home the same day. So now what do I do? So my brother-in-law got me a job with Pritz Builders, which is Wally Pritz, who's still in business today in Michigan City. So I worked for Wally about a year and a half and made $1.70 an hour. I had more money than I knew what to do with. And then I got a phone call from the general superintendent from Tonn and Blank. And the general superintendent from Tonn and Blank said, "How would you like to serve a carpenter apprenticeship in our wood mill?" Well, I studied wood mill and cabinetry. That's what I wanted to do all my life. So I had to go to Wally Pritz, and I was very happy building homes. And I said, "Wally, what should I do?" Wally said, "Joe, that's a chance of a lifetime for you. You should go." Now that happened because of the counselor by the name of Paul Bird and my woodshop teacher, which was Newt Muir, and at the time he was also athletic director for Michigan City Elston. So that's how I got involved with Tonn and Blank.
That is an amazing story.
Isn't it?
That is just,
Right.
People clearly liked what you were doing, and you were doing what you loved.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
you just kept moving.
Right, and I just keep doing it. And I was always been one to make sure that things got done and things got done correctly. If I have a fault, I'm probably too overbearing when it comes to things looking nice and being really built well. That's Joe.
Do you make cabinets these days?
I do furniture. I don't do cabinets. I do custom furniture. I have a custom furniture shop at my house. My wife, Betty, runs the cabinet shop, and she keeps it pretty straight. And I do all the custom work. I've done a lot of it.
I mean, I've been to places like Dunebrook, and there's conference tables you've done.
Absolutely.
They're beautiful.
Yeah. Well, when we did Dunebrook, I'll tell you what, it was a situation where at the very end of the last edition, which we'll talk about a little bit here, But anyway, at the very end, they needed a conference table, and they needed a couple of special tables for Les Radke, who was in a wheelchair at the
Right.
time, and I created all that. And then in their forensic lab, where they actually interviewed the kids, they needed a center for there too. So we built all that and donated it. Betty and I did.
Amazing. Well, what a contribution.
Absolutely.
Now, let me ask you this question, which is, you know, if there are a lot of kids right now who are either getting ready to get out of high school, or maybe they're out of college and they're trying to find something, or maybe they're half our age and something's happened and all of a sudden they don't have a job or don't know what they want to do. They're having this midlife crisis.
Mm-hmm.
What would you tell them?
I'll tell you what, if I had a young family today, the building trades, the Carpenter Apprenticeship program, I'll speak to because I'm involved with that very much. But all the trades are very good to get involved in. If I was a family with a young child, I would get him into a trade. I would get him going. They end up with an associate's degree after 4 years. And at the end of the day, not only do they get paid as they work, as they go through school, at the end of the day, when it's all done, they get a certificate, they get an Ivy Tech degree, and they haven't paid anything for their education.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And if they're driven like you are, they'll do great.
Oh, there's no question. Tonn and Blank, I got it started years ago, but today they still have the practice of hiring as many apprentices as we can to try to build a workforce for our company. And I'm proud to tell you at Tonn and Blank, we have like 50, 60 superintendents. Every one of those superintendents are graduate apprentices, and they're also they're all carpenter background. So the carpenters kind of lead the pack in supervision of projects. So that is absolutely a fantastic way to grow from within. You can see your town as they progress, just like I did.
Yep. And you can
50-some years
train
ago,
them the way you want them.
and you can train them the way you want them. You know,
And then they can go on to train other people the way. It's just that's
absolutely.
fabulous.
It's a win-win for everybody. And as I said, probably the biggest advantage a family would have today is that they'll have no college debt when they're done. And I can't even begin to tell you, I'm on the Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio Region Council of Carpenter. I'm Secretary Treasurer downstate. I'm on the management side.
Uh-huh.
And I sit on the international program for the Carpenter Apprenticeship. I just had a meeting in Vegas last week. And right from the very top, from the international to the states to everybody involved, they specifically train for their craft over and above any other trade that I know of that today. And that's why they lead the pack with supervision.
So let me ask you this question. Way back when I was in high school, they had a carpentry program or a wood shop program.
Right.
And they wanted to put me in home ec. And I said, no, I want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
They let me do that. Do they let women do that these days?
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure what's going on today, but I can tell you some of the things we did years ago, the old timers, that people ended up becoming very, very successful. When I graduated from Elston High School, I took machine shop, I took auto shop, I took drafting, I certainly took the wood shop from the 7th grade all the way to the end. And that's what I wanted to do, so I stayed my attention focused on that, right?
Right.
And you'd be surprised that sometimes people have trouble reading and understanding what they read. But
Yes.
people that work with their hands and rulers and tapes and saws, we give our superintendents a drawing this big around, 4 foot long, huge building, $200-300 million building. And they don't have any problem at all reading them drawings, at all. But yet you give them a contract to look at, they'll probably put it aside. It's not that they don't understand it, they don't read it. But it happens that way. And I wish we could go back. I've been around all over Northwest Indiana now with CWI and other folks trying to convince people to kind of get back to this career path alignment that I think we need. I believe we have a workforce. What I think is not happening is we're not educating kids today on what they want to be. You just made the statement yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's wrong. I think we need to get back. I think our counselors need to know who the students are. They're a big part of it, just like Paul Bird did with Joe Coar,
Right.
60-some years ago, 2 years after I graduated. To make that recommendation to the general superintendent, Tonn and Blank, is how I got hired. But they both understood what Joe Coar was about and what he could do as a young child. I had no idea. They understood it better than I did, you know. So I wished there was a way that we could get our schools on board. I think we've done better, but we have a lot more work to do. We have a tremendous amount of work breaking loose in Northwest Indiana. We got billion-dollar projects popping up, 3 or 4 of them, 5 of them, if not. And I would challenge our educational system today. Where is the workforce going to come to take care of those plants, those facilities?
Yeah.
I think there's room for everybody.
Well, we're glad you're still here to help.
I'm going to help. I'm going to keep helping. Some of them probably don't like what I say, but I know it works. It worked for Joe Coar, and it worked for my son. It worked for my daughter, and I'm not against higher education. My daughter wanted to be a pilot, so I sent her to Purdue. My son wanted to do what I did, so he joined the Carpenter. And quite honestly, both of them are extremely successful today.
That's
because
great.
That's what they wanted to do.
Right.
You know, not what Dad wanted.
No, and you really got to have it in here if you're going to be successful.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for sharing. This
Yeah.
was great.
Yeah, it is. It's a good thing, huh? It's a good story.
Yeah. Creating from the Heart, the Artistry of Living. I'm with Joe Coar, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.